Hey everyone, welcome back to Deep Blinkers, brought to you by Passion Fruit. I'm Eric Rodriguez, joined always with my co-host Drew Grant. We're joined today by Jeff May, who you may know from a number of podcasts, shows, various appearances on and offline. Jeff, thank you for being here.
Yeah, I'm so happy to be here, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Morning Zoo Crew show we've got going on here. Wouldn't that be fun if that was what I was doing the whole time?
That'd be great.
Morning Zoo Crew host.
We roll with it.
We've got Drew with traffic coming up.
It's like I'm making a Woody Woodpecker noise. Go ahead.
As it is with a lot of our guests, I found you through Drew now, and I've become a follower of your work over the years and the subsequent, shows that you've done since then and such. But funny enough, I believe I may have actually seen your work years ago before I even met Drew, because you're part of the Mint on Card comedy show here at Blast from the Past in Burbank.
Yeah, that's one way of putting it. I am part of it. Yeah, that's my show. Yeah,
it's show.
That's your show. Yeah, it's a part of you, I would say.
I mean, after I've been doing it for 9 years. Yeah.
Wow.
I used to go to those shows actually years ago because through a friend of mine who was a coworker with Lisa Harden.
My best friend.
Yeah. So I would go to the shows with her and see every night. So I was probably watching you before I even knew who you were, because of Drew. Yeah. And so I just wanted to maybe start at the very beginning, at least from my perception of things.
It's crazy. I had no idea you came to those. Like, what a small world. We have a small independent show that has somehow bucked the entire stand-up comedy structure of what a show is supposed to be like. It took a while, but the goal for that show is that we wanted to make a show that was the most for the comedians show. So like a show that every comedian would want to do. Mm-hmm. And it took us a while to build up a reputation of like making sure we treated the comedians right when they showed up. We gave them a green room space where they would get rewarded. We paid them through donations, even though the show was free. I take a normal cut. I take the same cut that they do. I don't take more out of running that show. And so after 9 years, with an asterisk because of something happened in 2020. But we have become like one of the more like, if you know, comedy shows. So that means a lot to me that you were going there earlier. And yeah, that's Lisa Harden, who you brought up is a non-comedy personality. She's just a good friend of mine. And she was like, if you want to run a show, like I love organizing stuff. And
wow,
she probably regrets that now, but
you also did something recently during the fires, I believe, with Lori Kilmartin, who was one of my original bosses over in New York City, 15 years ago or something. Yeah,
we did our January anniversary show. We were going to cancel because obviously the fires were there, and we were like, look, this doesn't seem like in good taste. And so I asked all the comedians, I sent a group message to every comic and said, what do you want to do? Like, I will donate my portion of whatever I make to what the generic concept of charity. And actually, Lori's the one in the conversation because, it's like, I didn't know where it was going to go yet. And Lori was the one that brought up, well, we could make it a fundraiser for the Pasadena Humane Society. And I think we raised $400.
Wow. That's
which
cool.
is that's not bad at all for a good cause. And the comedians, only one comedian couldn't make it. So it was a pretty good anniversary show. But yeah. Wow. You both have weird ties to Mint on Card. That's
right.
That's actually I don't think anything for the rest of the show can flatter me or make or fluff me up the way that just did. Cause that's my from the ground up baby.
Well, get ready for it because we recently, I feel a year ago, went to Blast in the Past. What was it for the Halloween thing? And we mentioned you, and that got us a backstage tour of from Blast in the Past. They got us back. We got to make some magnets. The guy was super cool.
Oh yeah, Larry. So Larry and Kathy, they're great. They're big comedy fans, and so it was actually Lisa's idea to suggest doing the show there. I was a customer there, and I used to help them sort. I would go in and just kind of volunteer for my friend Duncan who worked there. He would be trying to match up weapons to characters of toys, G.I. Joes. And I was just really good at that. So I'd be like, okay, this goes with this guy with this guy.
Wow.
And so I would just help them complete their stuff so they could sell it. So I'd known them well. But it's funny because I walked up to them kind of hat in hand being like, hey, do you think when they moved in their spot, a new bigger spot, I was like, do you think maybe you guys would want to host like a underground comedy show? And they were like, wow, you'd be willing to do that?
Wow.
And like in the comedy world,
Mhm.
that's any comedian listening to this knows how funny that response is, because I'm just like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, we'd be willing
Yeah.
to keep your store open for an extra 2 hours on Friday nights.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I want to ask, just because of that, what is your, I guess, your comedy background in terms of just your inspirations of comedy, kind of what you're, motivated by, but also just like how you develop your own style and like those sentiments you have for, treating the comedians right.
Okay. So ethics, I think, is really one of those things that is weird. I'm also weirdly competitive. So like before I was ever a comedian, I was a teacher. I was a teacher for about 10 years. And I really became a teacher, and everyone's like, they have like, oh, I had such inspirational teachers. And I'm like, I had some shitty teachers and I wanted to be better than them. So I did that. Like, I was like, I'm going to be a better teacher than the ones who were mean to me.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I was a terrible student, but a lot of them were boring. And I'm like, I'm not going to be like that,
Right.
And I was in a spot where I was unhappy. I'd gone through a divorce and I was like, just kind of like existing. And I started going to comedy shows in Boston with my good friend Fiona. And I was like, I met some incredible comedians that I'm still friends with and still really look up to. But I also met some really terrible comedians, like not bad people, but just really bad comics that were getting paid to be bad.
Mm-hmm.
And my competitive nature, when I was like really at this crossroads in my life of like telling these kids to follow their dreams and not doing it and doing all this stuff. And I was like, I could do this better than them.
Right.
So like, I don't know where we are on cursing here.
Go ahead.
But like, it's a very prickish way to try to build a career.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very aware of that. Like my motivation, I know motivation is supposed to almost entirely be intrinsic and like you're supposed to, but like sometimes it's just like you see people that are worse at something and you want to do it better.
Right.
I was like, man, there were people, I'm bored at this show. There should never be a comedy show where people are bored. So that was kind of it. And I had my years of like, new comedian means edgy shit, like you're like, I'm going to say this joke. And then after a while, you kind of calm down and realize like, oh, it doesn't have to be like that. Right. Like I can just have fun with it. Now, stand up is probably the thing that I relate to the most, that I perform the least these days. I've been a little bit kind of pulled away from the stand-up community, but I still love doing my show and I still love to perform. It's just podcasting pays my bills,
right.
So it's like, how much time do I then have to allot to like beg to work for free for other people when my time is already so very limited?
Right.
Influences, as far as influences go, a lot of those like 2000 aughts comedians, like, I mean, you can chase stand up very far back, right? Like, I was watching, stand up in the 80s when I was way too young to be watching it. But then like, obviously there are certain names that become broken, but like, I don't know, it's hard not to say that Louis C.K. wasn't a good inspiration for how you can be a great comedian and be honest.
Right.
Like, I know that's weird to use a person who has sort of become disgraced. And I recognize that and certainly do not give him any flowers for his behavior, but like, yeah, man, he was on a tear in the 2000 aughts, and that inspires. And there are people that I love that I don't necessarily inspire me, like people like Anthony Jeselnik, who I think are brilliant comedians. I don't get that inspiration. I can't do what he does, and I don't think I want to, but there were guys like Nate, like you look at Nate Bargatze and
my God,
John Mulaney and Laurie Kilmartin and Jackie Kashian and all these different incredible comedians, and you just sit there and you'd be like, I would like to be like that. And then you learn the amount of work that they do, the amount of writing that they do and everything, and it does inspire.
I remember I interviewed you once, I think during the pandemic, maybe a couple, like 4 or 5 years ago. I don't even remember, Jeff, but it was a couple years ago. But one of the things we talked about that I thought was really interesting, I thought would be well suited to bring up again, is your sort of journey into realizing that you didn't want to have, or you couldn't have, a sort of full-time job with an employer because of stuff online. I mean, just because that's sort of what we're talking about here, and what we do, Passion Fruit. It's a lot of people who are self-employed who do online creative work specifically because for one reason or another, they just don't mesh with the 9-to-5 work lifestyle.
I mean, here's the thing, right? I did the 9-to-5 for 10 years and I did it, and it paid my bills, and it was a decent paycheck. And I didn't hate it, but like, after a while, you realize there's a lack of authenticity to certainly have there. And like, I always remember, like, every time I was inauthentic in my life, like, I don't remember all the good stuff I've done, but I certainly remember all the negative things I've done. And I remember those times that I like sold myself out for something that was not what I wanted, but was like a page, like reality shows that I tried out for. And then like you don't get it or something, and you're like, wait, this isn't even why I wanted to come here. And now, like, whenever, like, I'll do partnerships with certain companies, right? I worked for a company, Sideshow Collectibles, probably when you interview. They need to protect their identity, they need to protect their paychecks, and Nazis buy Captain America statues. And they need to not offend the kind of people that I seek to offend. So it's not necessarily that I can't, it's just that I ultimately won't, because that house of cards comes crashing down pretty hard. And now when people want to do like a collab, like a company's like, hey, would you like to do this project with us? I said, before we do that, do you know who I am? Do you know what I do? Do you understand that? Because what I don't want is somebody to get fired for bringing me on. If I'm saying F Donald Trump, punch Nazis directly in the face, and they lose business, I don't want the person who pulled me in to get in trouble. So I definitely try to be like, you know who I am though, right? Like, you see this, like when I worked with Sideshow, the first thing I did was I sent them an episode of Tom and Jeff Watch Batman.
The best
where
show.
I'm making fun of Batman, who is one of their biggest moneymakers. And I said, I need you to listen to this before we sign anything. I need you to hear what I do. I need you to hear my cadence, the way I talk, the things I talk about. And they were like, totally. And then eventually, when things got, they started having buyer's remorse and they wanted to sort of terminate our relationship. I was like, yeah, that's why I had you, they were like, oh, you can't say that thing about Batman Returns. I'm like, I sent you a Batman Returns podcast where I make fun of it. I still love the movie. But saying that after I sent you specific pieces of information and examples, I was like, look, I was honest.
Well, specifically, social media lately has not been kind to you. You've just been dealing with a lot over on Instagram. Are you willing to talk about that, or should we just go next?
Totally.
Okay.
Instagram, and I did double check it because I wanted to be prepared. Instagram, I woke up one morning to Instagram giving me 180-day suspension for soliciting sex. Spoiler alert, no. I haven't really done that. I'm in either direction of soliciting sex. The attempts of either to purchase or to sell. I am A, not that confident, and B, not that confident in either direction of that. Right. So I was like, okay, well, I must have been hacked or something, right? Like, or I was talking shit on billionaires, so they found a generic reason to get rid of me. That's a little conspiracy theory-y. Occam's razor says it was most likely a hack or just an AI glitch. I obviously appealed, and then 24 hours later, I get a message, and they're just like, no. Not only are we not going to agree with your appeal, but we've now permanently disabled your account.
Oh my God.
I had thousands of people that were following me and thousands of I was following over 1,000 people. I lost connections I'll probably never get back. I lost messages with people that are no longer with us. You know, there are people that I know that, like, when we followed each other in like the early days of comedy, I didn't know they were going to be on, you know, Ted Lasso or something, like, and now they're never going to see my account show back up.
Oh,
Right.
wow.
Right.
Yeah, right. Because you're not gonna follow. Yeah.
They're so big. They have millions of followers now. There's like a 0% chance. And there is the false sense of integrity that I have where I don't want to text anybody and be like, can you please follow me?
Right.
It is just one of those, like, it's one of those things that I don't know what to do. I will shout out a very good friend of mine. His name's Nick Wexler. He was that kind of racist Punisher character in The Boys.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember that character.
Yeah.
He's in like Always Sunny, and he was on a show Revenge that was really popular back in the day.
Right.
I followed him back with my @HeyThereJeffro 2 account, and within like 2 minutes, and he's like a much bigger account. Obviously, within like 2 minutes, he texts me and he's like, "Hey, is this you? It looks like something." And I was just like, "How did you notice that?" And he was like the first one that really was just like, "I just want to make sure you're okay," and all that stuff. And I was like, "Damn, Nick, like, aren't you supposed to be promoting a movie or something? That's crazy." Like that. It's been hard, and it also happened at the tail end of the LA fires. And so I'm not allowed to feel bad about it. Like, I don't need to clutter up all the GoFundMe's for We Lost Everything.
Yeah.
With me being like, I lost my Instagram account. But also that has ruined an important part of my life. Because like I was working with an important auction house. Like a big, like a huge, it's Heritage. I was working with Heritage Auctions, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
And I was doing infotainment videos, and I don't have that reach with them anymore. Like,
yeah,
I don't have it.
Oh wow, that sucks.
And it's like I was making not bad money per video, like, so that's the kind of shit that happens. Or like connections to like branding company, like Chalkline, the apparel company, like they used to send me stuff for free.
Yeah.
Probably not getting that back now. Like, like all these little dumb things, and like, like the connections of the people. Like, there's the perks, which is like, you know, the Chalkline stuff or whatever. But there's also like the like my entire social connections have really fallen apart. And on top of that too, like, remember in The Simpsons when Mr. Burns goes to the doctor and he has everything? And they show the example of what happens, and they try to get them all out the door and they can't, right? Because they're all wedged in. That's my brain with people that I know. So like my brain, I couldn't remember who I was following.
Right.
Because it was thousands of people all trying to like vie for, and I was just like I think it took like a week and a half to remember my mom was on there and stuff. And it's like, it's not like a lack of responsibility or anything like that. It's just my brain sucks, and I lost all these people, and now I don't know how to get them back. It's how I book Mint on Card for the most part. Comedians are most active on Instagram. So like now all those messages are going into request folders.
Oh, right.
And sometimes these
that
people
sucks.
And a lot of them are women. A lot of comedians are attractive women, and like they steer clear of their request folder because there's a lot of dicks in there, literally. And so I'm just sitting there, and it's less like the shade of like the shadow of having my account be a sequel account, basically. And people like not trusting that it's me, or maybe they only followed me out of courtesy and they don't want to, and not necessarily cared about my follower count. I'm mostly cared about all the stuff that's directly done to my connections.
Yeah, it affects your livelihood, like you said, you know, your connections of just like how everything sort of like sustains itself for your presence. And you know, it's tough because I think that's one thing that we sort of comment on a lot is just like the unfortunate, oversight, like, like platforms have over like the individual efforts of like creators and people who try to build things online. So you're really at the whim of like any sort of, standards or like practices that they like want to have. And especially these days when they're changing so rapidly because of institutions and stuff like that.
Oh yeah. I mean,
I
my
so long
best
trying
was
to get
Twitter.
Twitter. Yeah, I was about to say Twitter was my thing. I had a verified badge.
exactly.
I could get into anyone's DMs. I was on the top of the things whenever. Oh my God. It's so humiliating to have to go over to Blue Sky and be like, 1 follower, like 10 followers. I'm not funny, I guess. I was just institutionalized. I was grandfathered into like the elite service of Twitter, which I guess is like a commentary on what they're trying to weed out ostensibly. But,
I got
whatever.
lucky with Blue Sky that I managed to make it on relatively early. So a lot of the people that I had connections with on Twitter, we still reestablished those connections.
Okay, good.
Which was like, thank God I got in at the elite time. But like, but yeah, like Twitter was my thing. Like, but the irony being, of course, that all of my best Instagram posts were just Twitter screenshots.
Yeah.
And so in that regard, that's actually kind of helpful because I can go back and just screenshot those. I haven't closed my Twitter account yet, but I do. I think almost every time I post, I'm like, hey, the person who owns this website is a Nazi. Anyway, I have a comedy show coming up on Friday. So I want everyone to know that I'm very aware of that. And I want to use the platform to also talk shit on him while I'm using him.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I agree. I'm not going to get off that site. I don't know. It just makes me like so annoyed. I don't know who was pointing this out recently, but like, do these people not watch Indiana Jones because they're offended when he punches a Nazi? Like, is this the kind of thing we're at now where it's like old media is going to start being offensive? They can't watch Schindler's List. Not like anyone was, but
it's so aggressive just because, even now, just, the Super Bowl happened this past weekend. And so the halftime show has everyone up in arms about like just the concept of rap music. And
Kanye's website. Kanye had a website that's just in swastika. It's crazy.
The Super Bowl halftime special, the easiest way to respond to people's criticisms of that is to look at them and say, not every movie has to be a Marvel movie.
Yeah.
Some movies you should think about. And like art is not always explosions and spectacle. Like Parasite, right? That's a movie that you had to think about. You had to utilize how to understand symbolism and like all these things. Like the halftime special, and if you're listening to this in the future, it was the one with Kendrick Lamar. The layers of symbolism in that special were unfathomable. And everybody's just like, but I just wanted shiny. I wanted a Marvel movie. And I get it. That's always like, I always think it's really funny because obviously I'm a professional nerd. I think we know this, right? One of my favorite things is when Martin Scorsese, when people would like interview him about stuff and he's like, that's not cinema. And everyone got upset. I'm like, well, he's not wrong.
Yeah.
What are you getting mad about for? You won. But don't pretend that Goodfellas and fucking Avengers 2 are on the same level. They're not. Like, there's room for popcorn flicks and there's room for that. But like, you can't talk to a octogenarian at this point in time who came up at the height of avant-garde popular cinema.
Right.
And then just be like, well, what do you think about this thing that's totally in the face of everything that you stand for? Like, I don't know what you want. I don't know what people want. Like, nerds need to feel like they're on the back foot, right? Like they always need to feel suppressed. And this is, and like they don't realize that they have won consistently since like 2008, right?
It's like the GOP. It's like exactly like the GOP. Yeah.
Right. But like 2008, it's all been nerds ever since The Dark Knight and Iron Man came out. It's like, oh yeah, like we get it, and like it's not 1995 anymore, and it's not 10 of us seeing Tank Girl. It's the reality of what it is. Like, these movies are massive and they are huge, and that's cool. But this doesn't mean that you're not oppressed because Martin Scorsese doesn't think the next Captain America movie is the height of cinema. He's right, but why do we care?
I actually really appreciated his analogy, which is like they're more like theme park rides, because I thought that was actually a really apt way of like describing it. Like the sensation of being at a theater for like a big Marvel movie is like a theme park ride. It's an event. It's like, it's something you can enjoy for like that specific experience. And I don't think it's like diminishing its value like in that sense when you try to like experience, like feel it that way.
No, and you know what? Theme parks make money. And
Right.
that's
Yeah,
fine.
tons of money.
And until the studios, and I will shout out studios like A24 and Blumhouse for bringing back low to mid budget theatrical films and stuff like that. And I wish Tarantino was putting more out. Like remember when he would like go out and like find, he'd find them, and it would be like Tarantino presents Hero, and you're just there, you're just like, okay, like it's got his stamp of approval on it. I'm going to check this out. Like, those are awesome. I love that. But like, not every movie needs to cost $220 million.
Yeah, very similar. We just watched Companion, which said from the minds of barbarians. So Zach Cregger was, a
involved,
producer on that. So yeah, like those type of, ins like really do help when you want to find new stuff.
What I also think too that the best movies are the ones you think about when you leave. Some Marvel movies are that,
right?
And that's cool, right? I think Endgame and Infinity War were both masterpieces of that kind of stuff. But like, I didn't think about the Eternals after I left. I didn't think about Ant-Man after I left, or Ant-Man 2 or Ant-Man 3. Like, sometimes I'll be like, oh, it was fucking really bad, or like, that was pretty good. But then it's like last year, I think one of my favorite movies I saw in the theater was Cuckoo.
Oh God, yeah, we did that for we did that for a podcast for Dave's podcast when Tom was out. I did Cuckoo.
Yeah.
It was a great one.
I saw it in theater. I was like, this is fucking delightful.
Yeah,
like it was so good, and I was like thinking about it a lot. I was talking about it when we were walking back from the theater. And like really like, the things that we noticed and like all the stuff, and like, did you see this coming? Did you see that coming? That's great. And that movie couldn't have been more than $12 million.
Yeah. Last
That
year for
movie-
horror was just great. we had a lot of like stuff to chew on for.
And I'm not
the
even a
horror
big
genre last
horror
year.
fan.
Really?
No, I'm not. Horror isn't really like, I always love subgenres of horror more than I like actual horror. So like, I mean, obviously, like I have my favorites, but like my two favorite horror movies are The Thing. Sure, right? That's a pretty
it's a great one.
And Tales from the Crypt presents Demon Knight.
God,
Because that's just fun.
Yeah.
To me. Like that's a fun version of that. I also think Billy Zane might be the most underappreciated horror character ever in that movie.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I think him in that movie is better than Robert Englund as Freddy Krueger in any of the Nightmare on Elm Street
Wow.
movies.
Let's throw that down. Like, that's crazy.
I still think Robert Englund is great, but that's
He's
how
great.
good I think Billy Zane is in that movie.
Yeah. And yeah, you have an opportunity to, talk about this stuff a lot, obviously through your various shows and, podcasts that you do. And that's mainly what, we, want to sort of dissect is the number of shows that you have been done over the years. How do you sort of manage not just, sort of juggling, schedule of like, maintaining things, but also just the creative side of like, coming up with something that you feel, invigorated by to like, pursue, and they say like, I can probably, follow this topic a little bit because it's of interest to me.
Well, there's a couple so it all depends on the show. One of the things, and people ask me, because I do a lot of these, and so like people ask me, people like Tom Ryman and David Bell, they'll ask them, they'll ask Adam Todd Brown about podcasting. And what I always say, like, first and foremost, like, you have a plan, right? And utilize that plan and stay consistent, right? Those are the two things: consistency and planning,
right?
And like your hook, right? Like, what's your goal? What's your plan? And so that's kind of like where I start. I treat my job like a 9 to 5, literally. I work Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, doing my job. Right. And I actually try not to record at night. Like I need to create that disconnect, or else I will not have a life. So I literally wake up and like I work 8 hours and I'm done by 5 p.m. almost every single day, unless of a freak occurrence, right? Unless it's like, well, we can only record at 6, or something like that, or I can only do Saturdays, and I'll be like, all right, well, I'll just have to record on a Saturday. But I try to keep that boundary for myself, because if I don't have structure, I will fall apart. My brain is too ADHD. It's too, like, I schedule everything in my calendars and stuff, right? So then in creating what shows it's first and foremost, it's like, what show do I want to do? Is this going to be financially viable for me to do this? And do I believe in this show? My flagship show, Jeff Has Cool Friends, is sort of like a sequel show to Sideshow's Sideshow. When I left Sideshow, I'm like, they do not own the concept of an interview. I can just do my interviews without having to worry about upsetting Warner Brothers or Disney or Universal or whatever. Like, I can say Batman Returns was way too sexual and violent for McDonald's and not get fired over it or whatever, right? So Jeff Has Cool Friends is something I believe in. It's also my least listened to podcast, because the theme is, I know somebody that I think is cool that I don't know if you know them or not, but I think you should know them more. And a lot of people are like, they would want me to do just a comics interview podcast or just a sci-fi interview podcast. I'm the nucleus of that podcast, right? But there's so much more to it. I want to pick people out that are like so vastly different every week. So like my current guest as of recording is Dr. Susan Finkbeiner. She's a lepidopterist. She's like one of the world
butterflies.
Yeah, she's a butterfly scientist. She's been National Geographic, PBS, bunch of stuff, like really cool.
That's fascinating.
It is. She's also a runway model.
Wow.
And she's also an adrenaline junkie who's done, like, she hiked to base camp at Everest. She's done like a lot of really, like surfing, skydiving, skiing, like just like all that stuff, right? That's fascinating. The next person might be a guy who draws Deadpool.
Yeah.
I've had one of my former students who was a player for the Dallas Cowboys.
Wow. Wow.
It's one of the least listened to episodes of my podcast because my nerd fans didn't think that they would enjoy something with sports. Right. And I'm like, if you think that the episode is about the job and not the person, I don't know how to reach you. I believe in that show.
You have another show that's You Don't Even Like Sports, right? That's
yours. Yeah. I do. That's a show I do with Adam Todd Brown. And it's because kind of that same thing is like, look, I'm a professional nerd, right? And I will be the first to say a lot of nerds are very snobby. They're very snooty. They love to say things like, oh, is there a sports ball game happening? I prefer the superb owl party. And it's like, congratulations on seeing a show. Good for you for regurgitating movie lines. You're making fun of guys who quote The Hangover. Meanwhile, you're quoting a TV show all the time.
Wow.
So Adam and I, we were bandying about names for the podcast. And the one we really wanted to do was never going to get approved by Apple, but it was going to be Sports by Huey Lewis and the News, a podcast about sports. Because that's one of we each love that album so much, but they would have immediately. So we were just like, yeah, but like the show is not about the sports. It's about the stories in there. It's like 30 for 30, but funny instead of just well produced. Right. Which 30 for 30s are great, by the way.
They're great.
If you don't even like sports, but you want to be unbelievably entertained by a documentary, 30 for 30. So we just did that. It's like comedy 30 for 30. And it started because I brought up the idea that we should do a podcast about Jose Canseco, like a mini series. And it became like insanely popular.
Nice.
It was called Jose Cansecast. And now that's retroactively become the first season of You Don't Even Like Sports, because people were like, more of this, please.
Right.
Yeah, we do You Don't Even Like Sports. With Adam, I do. And that's sort of become like the theme of the whole network now. The network is now You Don't Even Like This Network. He does a music one called You Don't Even Like This Band. So it's really become sort of like a touchstone of that. And Adam and I kind of came to a consensus on that title, and I think it works perfectly. But sometimes people will say, well, I don't really listen to that because I'm not a sports fan. And I'm like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah. I feel like
Read the
name is
title.
driving. Yeah,
Read the
exactly.
title. You think we love racing? No, but Tony Stewart is interesting. This is an interesting story that you're going to like.
Hey guys, Drew Grant here from Passion Fruit. Just wanted to thank you all for tuning into this episode of Deep Linkers. To everyone that's commented on our videos, shared our work, or otherwise supported the channel, we see you, we appreciate you, and we've got a lot of exciting things coming for the creator community at Passion Fruit. If you haven't already, the usual stuff on YouTube always helps us, like hitting that like button and subscribing with that little bell so you'll be notified about new videos. We also have a bi-weekly Passion Fruit newsletter that focuses on the creator industry, which you can sign up for through the link in the video description and the pinned comment. Twice a week, you'll get our best stories, as well as exclusive interviews, expert reviews, and the latest resource guides to help you navigate every stage of the creator journey. We even got a weekend newsletter on the way, with a curated creator spotlight that focuses on the best online content from the people who make it. You. Thanks again for supporting Passion Fruit and Reactorverse and Deep Linkers and helping make your content your business and giving love to people who make the web.
My podcast existence is a lot kind of like my life, where I try to diversify it as much as I can.
Mm-hmm.
Like I run a comedy show in a toy store, and then I punch and get punched for fun. That's like a weird thing. But it's fun. And there's like, one of the shows I do is a monthly show called Nerd with Dre Alvarez. It started because I have a tier on my Patreon where I'll do a monthly show with you for a certain amount. And
wow, it's dangerous. It's dangerous.
Well, it's within like, and I also say like I have the right of refusal,
Right.
or I have the right to like kind of like edit the theme, and
Yeah.
also like I tell them too, like I will help you structure this so it can achieve the best that it can. And I'll even say like I'll host it on my network, or I'll just send you the audio files and you can do whatever you want with them.
Yeah.
Right.
And Dre Alvarez signed up for that almost immediately, and we created this show Nerd, which is just like a monthly deep dive. We do 3-month seasons where we just dive into one thing very deeply of like why it's interesting, and we try to theme them out.
Wow.
And it's fun, and he edits them, and he's like, and then from there, like when I started doing the Jeff Has Cool Cards network, and I do I Must Break You, which is your Rocky IV. You understand why me doing a break show with a boxing quote in it.
Yeah.
Right.
And then he does a Monday evening show called I Must Drake You, DRE'K, where he opens his cards and he like helps edit, and he, and I trust him and give him like access to that YouTube, and just like you can stream when you want to, you're welcome to it. And so like that's a weird way to get a friend and a co-host, but that's just how this world works.
Yeah. That's especially with our particular roster of people that we know here at Passion Fruit. It's just that it's a lot of friends of friends and people that we know that we're like, we know that you'll be a good fit for this type of thing. Let's see if we can get you in and get you involved. And it's like that's sort of symbiosis of like understanding where people sort of fit in these sort of roles, and like how they complement you, but also how you can complement them and their work and like elevate what they are good at. And you mentioned I guess for yourself, having to have a structure for so you don't go crazy, you don't overextend yourself. Do you have any sort of specific processes or tactics within a day-to-day basis to how you sort of maintain that?
Routine. This is the most boring answer I can give you, but like I thrive on routine because of the way my brain works, right? Like if I don't have my specific schedule, like it makes it harder. Because like, for example, like Monday morning, I go to the gym at 9 a.m. right? I go to boxing at 9 a.m. and then I get home, I shower, and it's like, it's very specific. Go home, protein shake, vitamins, shower, dry off, check emails, sit down, watch Batman, take my note, watch Batman once, then watch Batman again to take my notes, right? That's like a 3 hour to 4 hour like process. at that point in time, it's like have Batman notes taken care of, wash whatever dishes need to get done. It's like, it's very specific. And I try not to, be ready at 6:30 for when Dre wants to do his show, so I can co-host it audibly so I can be there for him as well. So he's not just talking into a microphone, but he's interacting with me. Like, it's literally that, where it's like, and that makes it easier for me to, when it's like, then Tuesday, like I go to the gym at 10 o'clock. So that means I have more time in the morning to get something done. Then I go to the gym, then that, and like, then it's, I make sure I do another sweep of Batman. Then I record Tom and Jeff watch Batman. And that's why, like, when Drew asked me to do this show, I gave you very specific times of when I'm available. Those are my like slightly free pockets. Right. I used to have Thursdays off that I did as like a safety thing, but now I work for my friend Mike Mayhew's Whatnot channel as a host.
Oh wow, Whatnot. That's a great gig. I love Whatnot.
Yeah. It's look, I like Mike. He's very talented. So like I don't sell anything. I would never sell anything that I wouldn't want.
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to vouch for a thing that I wouldn't have.
Yeah.
So with Mike's stuff, I love his artwork, and I've been friends with him for 15 years or something like that. And he's like, yeah, I've been doing Whatnot, looking for a host, and I like having different people. And he's like, pick a day, basically. And I looked around at the time. I was dating somebody that really liked to do fancy things. Not that she expected me to pay for fancy things, but she wanted to do them, and we'd split or whatever, And I was like, shit, yeah, I probably need this paycheck. So I like sacrificed my Thursdays off for hosting Whatnot for 4 hours a day.
Wow, that's a long stream.
It is. It's in 2-hour chunks, and but Home Shopping Network stuff is like a weird talent to have. And
no, it's absolutely a talent. I've spent so much money on Whatnot. It's insane. Yeah.
I happen to be very fun, interactive, loose. Like, I'm not rigid. I'm not monotone. I blow my voice out on Thursdays because I really do like speak to this stuff and like push it. And, and it can be a lot of work, but it's a lot of fun, and it's a product that I do believe in. I tell people all the time, like, I buy stuff too. I'll watch shows that I'm not on, and sometimes I'll buy something. Like, that's a real thing I do. Yeah. So like, but it is routine. And it is a schedule. And I see a lot of podcasters, especially younger men, who see something like a Joe Rogan show and they think that that's how they'll make it. And spoiler alert, no, they won't. Right. And I, if they're not maintaining their schedule, if they keep it too loose, that's how you miss episodes. That's how you falter. That's how you lose consistency. Like I think every episode of Tom and Jeff Watch Batman has been recorded within the same 36-hour block.
Wow.
Since 2018. Right. Minus any like, I would say 99% of the hundreds of episodes we've done all have that same, Monday afternoon to Tuesday late afternoon. Yeah.
So I guess like, how would you, I mean, we can start wrapping it up here, but this has been fascinating, Jeff.
Whatever. I can talk all day. The 9 to 5 is start times. So if you want to bleed past 5, that's okay. I know you said that you got to move soon or whatever, but
yeah, I'm on the East Coast time. So this is my 8. But no, I was going to ask you, like, burnout is one of these things we talk about. When you talk about the consistency of having to, do stuff. I mean, I see you, or I listen to you every Friday night when we're on another friend, or we're on Tom and Dave's
on the
Friday
Game
night.
The Unemployed Discord. Yeah, movie nights. Yeah, when I can make it, I do those too. Yeah.
But how do you how would you say your approach to like not getting burnout or not having burnout when these things are so gruelingly consistent? It almost feels like it is a job. It's not like you don't have to do a job.
There are times where sometimes I just want to say fuck it and disappear into the woods. You're asking how I avoid getting burnt out. I'll tell you when I figure that out. The way that I have maintained my sort of ability to keep pushing forward, I think has a lot to do with the fact that this is going to sound really weird. I'm really good at suffering. Like it's a weird talent that I have. I can handle a lot of really weird, bad stuff. I can power through something that sucks because it's my job. And you're like, well, this is the job. So you do your job. And I also stay very active physically. I don't live a sedentary life. I take 1 day off or 1 to 2 days off from exercise a week. And then I push myself really hard for that. But that does give me that energy of pushing through and fighting. But one of the things, and I don't know, I mean, I could be an old man about it and say like the kids today, but like sometimes you just got to suffer and eat shit. And like, I'm the old manist thing about me is that there are certain things that the current generation is pushing about, like, if you need to cancel plans for your mental health, do it. I'm like, no, if you made a commitment, you stand on that commitment, or else I will not trust that you are a reliable person. And that this whole normalize canceling plans. I'm not going to do that. As a matter of fact, and I don't think he's going to be listening to this, that's fine. A comedian asked me, that was on a show I was hosting, asked me, hey, what time's the show start? And I was like, oh, it starts at 7:30. He's like, oh, I'm going to have to bow out. I took a set at the Comedy Store. And I said, oh, okay. I want you to know I think that's pretty shitty. And they were like, well, what do you mean? And I'm like, you committed to doing my show, and now you're telling me that you think a cuter girl walked into the dance. First and foremost, I'm paying you more than the Comedy Store. I'm fiercely supportive of independent comedy, and I'm one of the shows in this entire city that has one of the best reputations. I was like, I'm not angry at you. It just makes me view you slightly differently, that you would go and take a show after you said, yes, I would like to do your show. Right. Because I was like, my responsibility isn't to the comedians. My responsibility is to my audience. Right. And so, and they were like, oh, and I told them, I'm like, I need you to know, I'm really not angry with you, but I'm not going to lie and tell you that I think it's fine, because it's not.
Yeah.
Like you promised, and I would like you to hold up on that. I never bail on comedy shows that I'm booked on ever, because it's not about me anymore. It's about all the people out there. And even if I have a fucking migraine, unless I'm sick, I'm not going to bail. Or if it's like, oh, by the way, I had to fly home because my uncle died or something like that. Like I won't do it. I'll go. And I'll, if somebody invites me to do something I think is more interesting, I'll say, I'll talk to the booker, but the answer is probably going to be no, because I don't feel, unless they're like, I've been looking for a new slot, a slot to open up, so we'll get you next week. Right. But I won't cancel. And that thing of like just people being totally fine with like canceling plans, people being fine with like just being lazy, and they're like, sometimes I need a day to rot. I'm like, well, have fun. I'm gonna keep working, even if it sucks. I can assume that won't make me fully popular with a lot of people, because I've said this before, and I think it comes out wrong, or I don't relay it well enough. I have an antiquated sense of integrity, and I need everyone to know that I'm really putting an accent on antiquated. Okay. I know that my form of integrity is not a 2025 form of integrity. It's a lot of like, you say you're going to do something, you do it. It's very like 50s dad.
Yeah, this is very zaddy. Yeah,
it is. But it's like, but you know, I mean, I've obviously I'm like progressive, and I don't want anybody to like be harmed or hurt. But I definitely believe in, if you make a commitment, you honor it. You know. But I'm also divorced, so I'm a hypocrite.
Yeah.
But yeah. I mean, what was I lying to God? They don't even exist. Sorry. Sorry, I lied in a white building.
I think that's a great place to wrap up.
There's no God. That's how I avoid burnout, is I just remind myself that there's no God. I'm alone. I'll never find true love, and everyone hates me unless I make another podcast. And sometimes
more on the horizon then.
You wanna lead us out?
Yeah, Jeff, thank you so much for joining us today. It's honestly just a blast. Again, just to hear, I've been a follower of yours now for the last few years since I got to know more about your stuff, and I truly appreciate your principles of what you have online and how you sort of stand on business in that sense of like, you don't compromise your values and what you want to say for the sake of the work. Or, like you make sure those two are prioritized appropriately.
One last thing too that we can talk about too is like I also am keenly aware of what I look like. And I know if you know me well enough, you will argue with me that this is not the case. But I need you to know that if you don't know me, this is the case. I have resting MAGA face. And there's nothing I can do about that, right? Like I call it lots of things. I call it resting bastard face. That's what it used to be when resting bitch face came out. I'm like, I have resting bastard face. Then it was kind of like either or resting MAGA face or resting cop face. And I'm very aware of that. It's also one of the reasons that I'm very expressive about my beliefs for what our social justice, the important needs. I stand fiercely. I protect the people I love. My nephew is trans. Like if I hear somebody say shit about trans people, I will get in their face and be like, explain to me why my nephew is not valid.
Yeah.
Like I want you to tell me to my face. And I use that. I mean, look, I'm a 6'4", 210-pound boxer. Like I know what that looks like. I'm a white guy with blue eyes. Like I know. And so like, I'm very much need everybody to understand like who I am inside because I absolutely know who I am outside.
That's not where I thought you were going with it, but that's hilarious.
Where'd you think I was going?
I thought you were gonna be like, I thought you were gonna say something like self-appreciating about like the way you look or something. I don't know, but like the resting MAGA face is really
like
good.
That I think I'm handsome or something like that. Or
oh no, like the other way. I thought you were gonna be like, oh, because I don't think I'm that attractive or something. And I was gonna have to be like, oh no, Jeff, you're really cute.
To be fair, that is also true because you've seen photos of how I grew up. So like, there's also like the body dysmorphia and all that stuff.
Yeah, of course,
so, like, like I'm sort of like a blind man being told where to go. Like I don't see it, but I totally understand when people are telling me something. I'm like, okay, well, I'll take the hint, but I don't agree with you.
I have the exact opposite problem, which I always had the unearned confidence of a hot chick, even when I was like a chubby, 9th grader. I was always like, oh man, I'm so freaking hot. And so I just grew into it. Yeah, confidence is sexy. Not my unearned sense of confidence. So
that's confidence, Jeff, baby. That's confidence.
That's true. That is what confidence is. Jeff, where can we find you once again for this outro?
Well, you can find me on Instagram at HeyThereJeffro and then the number 2. So it's Hey There Jeffro 2 because it's the sequel. For now until I can try to get that fucking account back. I'm Hey There Jeffro pretty much everywhere. My YouTube page at Jeff Has Cool Cards is really fun. I love that. I also do a lot of podcasts on Gamefully Unemployed's Patreon, as well as the stuff I do with Adam Todd Brown. And you don't even like this network. And of course, patreon.com/Jeff May is where I put the early access to uncensored episodes of bonus content of Jeff Has Cool Friends, early access to Nerd, the exclusive UGG Fine with Kim Crawl, as well as a lot of other stuff. I mail cards. All the cards I open, I mail them out to Patreon.
That's so cool. Yeah.
I have lots of really cool tiers. You can produce shows. You can get cards in the mail. You can listen to cool conversations. I have a great backlog of shows. I'm about to hit my 100th episode of Jeff Has Cool Friends in next month, I think. But it's a lot of fun. I bring on fascinating people. I bring on people that I know that I think everybody should know. And that's helped me out a lot, I think, in like being able to make a show. Like people will often volunteer their friends for my show.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
that's awesome.
I'm like, thank you, but I don't know them.
Yeah.
It has to be your friends.
The conceit of the show.
Right.
But yeah, and I'm easy to find if you're ever at like a Comic-Con and you see a giant broy looking dude with a M Red Sox hat. That's me.
Awesome.
Thank you. Where can I find you guys?
Yeah.
I was gonna say, go ahead.
You can find me at Chronic across social media. You can find Drew at VIDEODREW across social media. You can find us at Passion Fruit for Us across social media, most platforms. You'll find links to our Discord and Patreon down below, and we'll catch everyone on the next episode.
Bye.